champion, the psychological ritual gladiators used before entering the arena. Imagine, for a moment, that you're standing in front of a massive wooden gate. On the other side, thousands of voices roar like a storm waiting to explode. The ground vibrates, the air feels heavy, and every breath you take seems to carry the weight of your fate. You smell dust, dry blood, and iron. Your heart is beating so hard it feels like it might break through your armor. And then, a single question rises quietly inside you. Am I ready? This exact moment, this instant between fear and courage, is where the mind of a champion was forged. Today, I'm going to take you inside the mind of a gladiator. I'll show you the psychological ritual these men performed before stepping into the arena. A ritual that transformed terror into focus, uncertainty into strength, despair into purpose. Prepare yourself, because once you understand this, you will never face your own challenges the same way again. The path to the arena. The story begins minutes before the battle. Gladiators walked through narrow stone corridors, lit only by flickering torches. No one spoke. The silence wasn't a lack of courage. It was part of the ritual. Each step echoed like a brutal reminder. This is the most real moment of your life. Their trainers walked beside them, watching with intense eyes. They knew that at this point, technique no longer mattered. The mind was everything. Victory began long before the first sword was lifted. First ritual. The inner isolation. Even surrounded by other men, the gladiator entered a state of psychological isolation. He let the world fade away slowly. There was no crowd, no noise, no pressure. It was just him, alone with himself. They called this the inner descent. It was the moment when the mind stopped reacting to fear and began commanding it. Gladiators didn't fight fear. They placed it beside them, like a silent ally. Ask yourself, how many times before facing a challenge do you truly turn inward? Or do you enter the battle carrying worry, anxiety, and distraction with you? To them, the difference between winning and losing began exactly here. The second ritual, the breath of the unbreakable. The second ritual was simple, yet unbelievably powerful. Breathing. Gladiators practiced slow, deep, calculated breaths. They inhaled for a controlled count, filled their lungs completely, and released the air even more slowly. Why? Because it triggered what we now call the neurological response of total focus. The trembling stopped, the heart slowed down, the mind became clear, like a battlefield swept clean. It's fascinating to realize that men living thousands of years ago used techniques that modern elite athletes, special forces, and psychologists still study today. They understood that before winning out there, they needed to win in here. The third ritual, the symbolic act of courage. Before entering the arena, many gladiators performed a small but deeply meaningful gesture. They touched the ground with their hand. This touch wasn't superstition. It was symbolic. It reminded them that even in the face of chaos, they were grounded, present, alive. And that alone was a miracle. Some murmured their own mantras, short phrases repeated before the fight. Something like, "I have survived the impossible before," or "Today I am stronger than yesterday," or "Victory begins in my mind." This ritual was the bridge between the ordinary man and the warrior born within him in moments of crisis. Ask yourself, what is your ritual before facing your own battles? What do you tell yourself before stepping into your arena? The fourth ritual, the visualization of victory. Gladiators close their eyes for a few seconds, sometimes just a single moment, and visualized their victory. Not only winning, but fighting with precision, attacking with clarity, and controlling their emotions. They saw themselves firm, fast, dominant. This created a kind of anticipated reality. When the battle began, the mind had already fought it, already won it. The body simply followed the script. This technique is used today by world champions, CEOs, athletes, soldiers. But gladiators practiced it long before anyone ever studied it. They trained not only muscles, they trained meaning. The fifth ritual, the acceptance of fate. This might be the most powerful and the hardest to understand. The final step was acceptance, accepting that control is never absolute, accepting that life is not guaranteed, accepting that fear is natural, but courage is a conscious decision. This acceptance freed the gladiator. He entered the arena not to survive, but to fully live in that exact moment. It created a kind of mental state so powerful, so unshakable, that many enemies trembled just by seeing the look in his eyes. It wasn't arrogance. It wasn't rage. It was absolute presence. The presence of someone who decided to face his path to the very end. The gate opens. The iron gate creaks. Light floods the dark corridor. The roar of the crowd explodes like thunder, and the gladiator steps forward. He is no longer the ordinary man who trained in the yard. He is no longer the boy who once felt fear. He is no longer the prisoner, the slave, or the soldier. He is a symbol. He is the result of a ritual that forged his mind into the most lethal weapon he could bring into battle. And now, you. The truth is simple. You have your arenas too. Maybe they're not arenas of sand and blood, but they are the arenas of life. Challenges, responsibilities, dreams, fears, expectations. And what if you applied even a small part of these rituals? If before a big challenge you took a deep breath, visualized your victory, isolated your mind, repeated your mantra, and accepted the unknown with courage, how different would your life be if you entered your days with the mindset of a champion? Because in the end, the arena reveals who you decided to be before you stepped into it. And the question is, who do you choose to be today?